KSAT 12. The 6 o'clock news starts right now.
As the number of COVID cases continues to soar in Bexar County, there is a ripple effect throughout the medical community.
From the need for more healthcare professionals to the need for more hospital space, the situation is serious.
Paul Venema takes us to the medical examiner's office, the morgue, where they're taking a close look at their role.
In Bexar County, like the rest of the country, hospitals do the investigations and monitor the COVID-19 death count.
Unfortunately, the current community pandemic is also affecting our office.
Dr. Molina, who was just named Bexar County Medical Examiner, told county commissioners that her office plays a unique role in the COVID crisis locally.
We are seeing multiple deaths that are occurring at home out of the hospital setting, as well as those who don't even know that they are infected with COVID, who die and come into our office. So our caseload is increasing with those deaths.
That means the need for more storage space.
We procured some funding for an extra cooler to be dropped and built in on our facility.
A facility that will become overcrowded if the COVID numbers continue to spiral, according to Dr. Molina.
Our footprint in our building is a fixed footprint, and so very early on, we also identified that we might need more space, unfortunately, for more decedents.
A need that Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolf said commissioners understand.
And we're examining now in our long-term plans in terms of use of space.
Paul Venema, KSAT 12 News.
Face covering requirements, social distancing, temperature checks, if possible, for employees and customers. Those are just some of the things that city officials are asking businesses to do to stop the spread of COVID-19. And while some businesses might start implementing them for the first time, others have already taken some of those precautions and more. Heritage Dental does temperature checks and pre-screens for patients at home and when they come in for their appointment. Staff says these extra safety measures are nothing new to them.
We have to not only worry about the patient we're seeing, but we got to worry about the next patient after that. So we go through a multitude of steps that dental practices we've been doing this for years and years. Infection control has been a standard operating procedure for all dental offices for, since the AIDS epidemic back in the early 80s.
The city also asking businesses to display COVID-19 symptoms near their public entrances. Businesses have until Friday to start making these safety measures.
Their work with homeless and trafficked youth is already demanding, but COVID-19 has exacerbated that. Roy Moss Youth Alternatives has a drop-in center and multiple shelters. Despite strict safety measures, a group of staff and one resident have tested positive. Courtney Friedman explains through all of the adversity, the organization is staying positive, determined to save youth desperate for help.
Roy Moss Youth Alternative staff started planning in February before COVID even hit us locally. But the latest spike hit them. Out of 166 staff members, 6 have tested positive along with one of the youth.
Most of our cases have been mild. Most of them are back to work already and still, giving 100% and taking care of kids. We are essential frontline workers.
The team has had to make some tough decisions, which may soon include living full-time at the shelter if case numbers don't calm down.
I spoke with my husband and we made decisions that if we had to come out here and work, that's what we were going to do to keep our kids safe.
Kids who have nothing, no family support, no safe place to live, no access to health care.
Many kids in the foster care setting have underlying health conditions.
To make matters worse, stay-home orders closed locations like Starbucks and the library, where Outreach Director Chuck Paul usually keeps up with them.
A lot of our young people have cell phones, but they don't have cellular service. But they have social media accounts. So we're able to reach out to their social media accounts so they can get those messages whenever they're close to a free Wi-Fi signal.
Paul says more young people are desperate right now and don't need as much pushing to visit the drop-in center or seek help at safe places around the city like Quick Trip stores. What they want the youth to know, someone will always be there to help. Courtney Friedman, KSAT 12 News.
The Roy Moss mental health counselors are still working through telehealth. People needing help with their kids or even self-help can always call 210-340-8077. If you're interested in becoming a Roy Moss staff member, reach out. We have that contact information on our website, ksat.com.
The Austin City Limits Festival officially canceled for 2020. That festival was scheduled for later this fall. In a statement, ACL officials said, quote, "We would have loved to put on another memorable show this year. However, with the uncertainty surrounding the current situation in Texas, this decision is the only responsible solution." The festival will resume October 2021 to commemorate its 20th anniversary.
The Padre Island National Seashore announcing today they will close their beaches this 4th of July weekend to help combat the alarming spike in cases. Those wanting to camp overnight will also not be allowed. The closure will begin Thursday at 8 p.m. and last until Tuesday at 6 a.m. Access to the beaches and camping will not be allowed. Medina Lake Park in Bandera County will also be closed this weekend. For those details and to read about other closures, head to our website, KSAT.com.
The Maestro Entrepreneur Center's name is its mission. It teaches owners how to grow their businesses and encourages residents to buy local. Tonight, Jesse DeGriato tells us about two small business owners who came to the Southside nonprofit and are now trying to weather some tough times.
Teresa Garcia is one determined small business owner.
Giving up is not an option. Quitting is not an option.
Especially since her rent is low and her utilities are covered here at the Maestro Entrepreneur Center. That's also given her the training she needed.
They have been instrumental in my surviving this pandemic.
She had to. Her business, she says, is essential. Right now, her classes on food handling safety required by state and local health departments are in demand.
Because a lot of restaurants are finding out that their certificates are expired.
Then there's this specialty craft cold brew coffee now on grocery shelves. It went from being produced in a dorm room at Trinity to the on-site kitchen here at the Maestro Center.
So they were a blessing to us, giving us the opportunity to actually produce like a real manufacturer and to be a real brand.
Being on the South Side, the nonprofit even offers its help in 2 languages.
It's completely for free. There are many resources. Use it to your advantage.
Jesse Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
SA Youth team members will be keeping it cool thanks to new AC units they received from Schaefer Serves. SA Youth provides much needed supplies, meals, educational opportunities to youth. And when Schaefer Serves heard team members were working in 90-degree temperatures, they decided to step up and help them. By the way, Schaefer Serves is a new philanthropic program that gives out AC units and provides plumbing services. Team members say they plan to reinvest the money they would have spent on new AC units back into their nonprofit programs.
And so the things that we're going to be able to do are more care packages, more educational things, being able to provide those essential items for our families. So those funds are going to go right back into our programming, courtesy of Schaefer. So we're so excited to be partnering with them today.
SA Youth helps those in the community from kindergarten all the way to college students.
Turning now to our weather, let's take a live look at a very hazy live cam out there. 95 degrees, Adam. A little bit of cloud cover, but boy, that humidity outside today.
Yeah, we had the cloud cover to offset sunshine.
Yeah.
But it was so muggy out there. If you're working outdoors, you still felt it outside, that's for sure. And we don't have anything on the radar screen around us right now. Some storms in Mexico and much farther to the west, but that's about it. Take a look at our high temperature today. We made it up to 97. That's 3 degrees above average after a morning low of 80. Yeah, we couldn't even dip into the upper 70s earlier today. Right now we're at 95. That dew point's at 68, so it feels like it's 5 degrees warmer than the actual air temperature. And you look at temperatures across the state, the warmest readings, well, for the most part, right here in South Texas. Cotulla at 103 and Carrizo Springs right now at 102. This evening, we'll gradually get down into the 80s and then just slowly drop through the 80s and settle in the upper 70s by tomorrow morning. Uneventful this evening and tonight. Tomorrow's going to be basically a repeat performance with added haze in the air. Little extra African dust to give us that extra haze. 78 in the morning. 97 by tomorrow afternoon. That's here in San Antonio, though. You look off to the west and southwest, typically warmer locations back at and above the century mark. All right, we'll be back with your forecast coming right up.
These images were a wake-up call. Even more than the numbers and the projections, this video from a San Antonio food bank distribution event back in April illustrated the economic crisis brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. Thousands of families in their cars lined up, waiting to receive food.
I was driving the other side of 410, looking over at this line, and at that moment, I said to my team, we are going to need more food. This is insane.
But in the weeks that followed, the food bank CEO, the county judge, and the mayor were among those saying that this public health crisis did not create a new problem, it only exacerbated an old one.
This crisis has revealed a very unlevel foundation with a lot of cracks in it in terms of our economy.
San Antonio has long been considered one of the poorest major cities in the U.S. We're taking a look at the root causes of some of the inequities we're facing and what it will take to level the playing field. KSAT explains the uneven impact of COVID-19.
I went from feeling fine to feeling extremely fatigued.
29 years old, fighting COVID-19. Tonight on the Night Beat, hear his story and his message to others.
Meantime, we are standing by for our daily city-county briefing. Yesterday, a very alarming one with those new statistics. Over 1,200 new cases as of yesterday. Let's listen in for the latest today.
Andy Segovia, our city attorney, and this is our COVID-19 update for the San Antonio community. Tonight, we are reporting 439 new cases of COVID-19, bringing our total to 12,504. We do have another new death to report tonight, unfortunately, a Hispanic male in his 80s. And who passed away at Baptist. That brings our total deaths since this pandemic began in San Antonio to 111. Please keep his family in your prayers. We also have 53 more hospitalizations today, taking us over the 1,000 mark for patients in the hospital for COVID-19. That's 29% of all hospital admissions now being related to COVID-19. We do have 1,019 people hospitalized this evening, and that includes 324 in intensive care and 175 on ventilators. In terms of capacity, we have 57% of ventilators available, as well as 27% of all staffed hospital beds available. We continue to see alarming trends in the COVID-19 numbers we're tracking, and the judge and I are trying to do everything we can, along with you, to stop the spread of COVID-19 within the narrow parameters of the state's orders. Yesterday, we added some language to our local emergency orders aimed at limiting the number of sick people from interacting with others. Temperature and symptom screenings are tools that can help prevent such interactions. However, we had a number of businesses and others talk to us about what that requirement would do and the practicability of it that was difficult to comply with in the short term. So we've made some changes to the requirements, but not to the objective. We hope with this new approach we can leverage the ongoing efforts of the business community to help us in an effort to stem the tide of the coronavirus. The new local orders require that all local businesses, commercial businesses in San Antonio and Bexar County, must, as part of their previously required health and safety policies, prominently display a list of the COVID-19 symptoms. We have signage available for download on the county and city websites, and we all need to be aware of these symptoms of COVID-19 and stay home if we have any of these symptoms. The signage, in addition to the existing policy that businesses require all customers, employees, and visitors wear masks when entering the premises. We are not requiring that businesses conduct temperature checks at the door of all customer and employees, but we are encouraging them to do so strongly. This is in addition to the provision in the state's plan, which on May 1st recommended that businesses and employers conduct temperature checks on all employees and contractors at the beginning of their shift where feasible, and send home anyone with a temperature greater than 100 degrees. As you know, gatherings of more than 100 people are also prohibited now. We are prohibiting them whether they are indoor or outdoor. Of course, there are some exceptions to this outlined in the state's order, and for some of those accepted gatherings, we're now ordering that they also have a health and safety policy that includes requiring masks, screening for COVID-19 symptoms, etc. The types of gatherings that must conduct these activities in order to be exempted from the prohibition on gatherings of 100 or more are as follows: recreational sports programs for youth and adults, professional, collegiate, or similar sporting events, swimming pools, water parks, museums and libraries, zoos, aquariums, natural caverns and similar facilities, and rodeos, equestrian events, amusement parks, and carnivals. The updated order is on our website. If you have any questions, that's covid19.sanantonio.gov. And we do have some announcements related to parks, and I'll turn it over to Judge Wolf for that.
Yes, Mayor and I have been working together with respect to the parks that both the city and the county have. We'll be entering an order through our administrative orders through the county to close all county parks except for the trails, and I believe the city will be doing the same thing with theirs. It'll be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Why are we doing this? We know what happened back on Memorial Day. We know the good part of what we did back in Easter when we closed. Nothing closed on Memorial Day, so we want to take the extra precaution of closing the parks on the July the 4th. We know that there'll be a lot of people that will not be happy with this, but it's for their own protection. There are going to be some large events over the July the 4th. I know there's going to be, I believe, a fireworks show out at SeaWorld. I think Fiesta Texas is open. I'm sure there may be some others. And that's why we put in the greater restriction, because you're going to have a ton of people coming. So if you go to either one of those two facilities, you've got to go through somebody that's there at the gate. And so there's not any problem with them doing a temperature check when you go in. It's for their own safety and for the safety of all the customers that are going to be there. It could be, several thousand. So these exemptions that we targeted with the mandatory piece of temperature are those that are going to have a lot of people. And that, quite frankly, is probably one of the most dangerous places for you to be this weekend. So I would encourage you to stick with your family. I think we had social gatherings 10. Get together with some of your family and enjoy yourself. Take your fireworks, go out in your, well, I shouldn't say go out in your front yard because you can't do that in the city, can you? But go someplace where it's safe for you to shoot off the fireworks and enjoy yourself. We will be posting on our website as well as the city's website that tells you and shows you in a graphic form if the businesses will put this up on their doors, the symptoms that they'd be looking for: cough, fever, chills, muscle pain, sickness, shortness of breath, sore throat, a new loss of taste or smell. So we want to get those up right away as quick as you can, and we're asking the business to do it very promptly so that they'll have that notice before someone walks in and realizes they may have a symptom that could be the COVID. While we are struggling, and we're struggling big time with the hospitalization, Dr. Alsop is here with us, the medical director of the Bexar County Hospital District, and I must say, the hospitals and the doctors and the nurses, they're all doing an incredible job. While we're seeing a tremendous rise in patients in hospitals, we're also seeing that we're doing better than any other metropolitan area in the state of Texas with respect to those that have passed away because of COVID. Our numbers are still lower. I'll give you one quick example. We have 111 deaths in Bexar County as opposed to Tarrant, which is the same population as we are. In fact, it's a little bit bigger. They have 231, twice as many. They got 384 in Harris, 380 in Dallas, 124 in Travis, which is way smaller than we are. So we're doing a good job with our medical team, but they are stretched to the limit. We think maybe at the most we can handle about 2 more weeks of these continuing rises, 10% a day. It's not sustainable. So we've all got to be a lot more careful, and we all got personal responsibilities to take care of ourselves and help take care of others.
Great. Thank you, Judge. And we really have to express to you the seriousness of the situation. In the hospitals and our medical community, it is dire, and we need you and we need everyone to cooperate in the community to get it back in handle of this coronavirus pandemic here in San Antonio. If we think back about the beginning of June and the rise in cases we've seen over the last couple of weeks, pointing back to what happened over the Memorial Day weekend, this is that weekend again coming up. And so we need everyone to do their part, maintain physical distance, wearing face masks, proper hygiene, etc., so we don't contribute to the continued surge of COVID-19. As always, you can subscribe to the latest by texting KSAT.gov to 55000. You can also go to the website at covid19.sanantonio.gov. Stay home, save lives. Let's work together and get through this. And we'll go to questions now.
All right, some new and updated orders that were just put forth there by County Judge Nelson Wolf as well as Mayor Ron Nirenberg. All parks will be closed, both the city and county parks, except for trails. That is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Clearly, they're concerned about this 4th of July weekend. Also, some new orders when it comes to large gatherings, sporting events, amusement parks, some of the other things where they expect a lot of people to socially gather. They are asking for temperature checks, face masks, face coverings, and social distancing at those events.
Yeah, the mayor talking in detail about these new city-county orders, adding new language. He said after speaking to some business owners, they've kind of made changes to the requirements, but not the objectives.
It just wasn't practical, is what he said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And some of those will be that commercial businesses must display a sign that tells everyone the COVID symptoms, which folks can download on the city and county website. Also, that businesses must require customers to wear face masks. They're actually not going to require temperature checks, but they are encouraging businesses to do so. And then ordering, as you mentioned, Steve, that large gatherings effectively do the same.
Yeah, and we also want to get quickly the numbers, 439 new cases. That's about a third of what was just reported yesterday. That takes us to more than 12,500. One new death. We are now at 111. And for the first time, we have more than 1,000 people who are currently in the hospital in Bexar County. 1,019 patients hospitalized right now.
We'll be right back.
The Spurs are getting ready to hold workouts at their practice facilities. They prepare to resume the season in Orlando. With COVID-19 cases on the rise, finishing the season is certainly not guaranteed. Spurs small forward Rudy Gay spoke with Sports Radio 105.7 The Fan in Baltimore and was asked how the Spurs are doing with COVID and his thoughts about some NBA players and so many others across the nation testing positive for the virus.
Thankfully, we haven't had any of those cases, but this just goes to show that it impacts not just the NBA, but the United States of America, the whole country. We're no different. So it happens, and this is the reason why it's important to practice social distancing, practicing cleanliness, and practicing everything that we should at these times.
Yesterday, through his Flight 22 Foundation, Gabe was able to give away reusable face masks and hand sanitizer in his hometown of Baltimore, Maryland. Take you to Bernie City Park, where we recently caught up with the Locke brothers, Chase and John, while working out. After graduating from O'Connor High School in 2019, Chase went to the University of Southern California as a walk-on wide receiver. His younger brother, John, is class of 2022 and will battle for the Panthers starting QB job this season. Now, Chase digs the fact he has a quarterback in the family he can work with whenever he's back in town.
It's actually pretty cool. I don't have to, go reach out to, some of the other guys that live all over. I know that you're familiar with Levi. He's a really close friend of mine, but he is Smithson Valley area, so he's pretty far from me. Yeah. So it is pretty nice to walk across my hallway and be like, hey, can we go get some routes in? And so that's pretty convenient.
I was able to see what he's doing at the college level and apply that to what I'm doing in high school. So basically our coaches sent us workouts, and so I did a little bit of both, and I ended up doing more of his stuff because the college strength coaches obviously have a lot of experience, and so it's really helped a lot.
We'll have more with Chase and John Locke in the coming days. Elite House Sports met up at Eisenhower Middle School to get in some work this morning. Judson Gray and current Seattle Seahawks cornerback Trey Flowers stopped by to help out. He's friends with Elite House trainer Trey Johnson and always enjoys helping area athletes get better.
If I had it when I was their age, I would have loved it. So me coming back is really just, they don't have to listen to me. I'm not anybody important maybe to them, but I know I have a little bit that can make them get better. I got my family out here. I got Braden Flowers out here, starting quarterback from Roosevelt. Got a couple guys from Brandeis, but it really doesn't matter. We're all from San Antonio, and I just want to see everybody get better and go to the next level.
It's big, man. Trey's a great help to us. He comes out, he asks us, he tells us, like, hey, if y'all need me for anything, just let me know. So it's good to have him on call, and then seeing him elevate to the NFL level and succeed at the NFL level has been big, and it helps these kids out. It boosts their confidence to come out here and, have training from him every day.
Elite House Sports teaches speed and agility. Recently crowned WBA super flyweight champion of the world, Joshua Franco was named the Boxer of the Month for June by World Boxing Association. Franco won the Boxer of the Month award since he won the first world title bout after the pause caused by COVID-19. Now, Sunday night at Instant Replay, don't miss part 2 of our sit down with the champ.
That guy is so interesting.
He is.
He really is. I see why they call him the professor, El Profesor.
El Profesor,
right?
Yeah,
I like that.
Thank you, Larry.
You got
Thanks,
it.
Larry.
We'll be right back.
More than 36 states now reporting increasing numbers of new coronavirus cases, according to the New York Times.
The pandemic not only continuing to pummel the health of the nation, but also the economy. Many small businesses are struggling to survive with restrictions being reimposed.
But there is a sign of hope out of Washington, D.C. ABC's Rena Roy has the latest.
Arizona is one of the nation's main hotspots, cases nearing 75,000. An internal FEMA memo obtained by ABC News shows 2 major medical facilities are unable to take new patients. The governor shutting down bars and gyms, and now one fitness center that operates throughout Arizona is suing to keep their doors open.
To hear that he was choosing fitness centers as one of the few businesses to close down without any true reasons as to why is really what set this in motion.
Mountainside Fitness welcomed guests Tuesday and in turn received multiple citations from police. But there may be more relief on the way. In a surprise move overnight, the Senate approved an extension of the Paycheck Protection Program, which was set to expire. It's been a lifeline for small businesses, and now the $130 billion in funds will be available until August 8th. This as at least 38 states plus Puerto Rico see an increase in cases, according to the New York Times. 17 are pulling back on reopening plans. Today, New York City postponed indoor dining indefinitely after initially aiming for Monday when the city enters phase 3.
We have to be careful, and this can still rear its ugly head anywhere in this nation and in this state.
Health experts once again urging people to wear masks and to keep social distancing.
We need every state to have a mandatory mask law. I just think we can't dither around on masks.
Still, there is no federal mandate, and many states aren't requiring them either. A new study from Goldman Sachs says a national face mask mandate could be a major economic win by minimizing future lockdowns and saving the U.S. economy $1 trillion. Meantime, President Trump is pressing on with an early 4th of July celebration at Mount Rushmore Friday. Thousands are expected to attend. The governor of South Dakota told Fox News that masks will be provided at that event, but not required, and that social distancing will not be encouraged. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
New York health officials are reporting a COVID-19 outbreak in Rockland County, all linked to a house party by one person who was symptomatic. The party happened on June 17th, with those attending being young adults in their 20s. 8 people have since tested positive. One other case is pending. Health officials are trying to stem the outbreak through contact tracing, but say the parties involved are refusing to cooperate.
We are deadly serious. I will not allow
to have the health of our county compromised because of ignorance, stupidity, or obstinance, or anything else for that matter.
Subpoenas will be issued with $2,000 per day fines possible for noncompliance with the Rockland County Department of Health.
There has been a drop in 911 calls since the start of the pandemic. Calls for emergency medical service declined 26.1% since early March. That's compared to the past 2 years. Researchers from the University of Buffalo conducted the study. Researchers say it could be because people are afraid of contracting COVID-19 or an effort to not bother medical facilities overrun by COVID-19 patients. The study also found that the lack of 911 calls could spell financial trouble for some EMS services.
The Oxford scientist leading a COVID-19 vaccine trial in the UK says 8,000 people have been vaccinated in phase 3 of the test. A few hundred people also received the vaccine in Brazil, but reports say that number should be up to 4,000 within weeks. In South Africa, the trial hopes to vaccinate 2,000 people. Brazil and South Africa are both areas of high transmission at the moment.
All right, the weather situation, it's July.
Yes.
Yes.
We can officially say it's July now. You know, what do you expect?
It's pretty much what I alluded to on my push alert earlier to those that have the KSAT weather app. It's July. Temperatures aren't going to change much in the days ahead. We know that. We understand it. Expect more of the same and even a little uptick in high temperatures. I'll show you the forecast, and we will jump into rain chances as they do come back into the picture toward the end of the weekend. Let's start with a look at area lake levels. And we'll start with Medina Lake on top. That's always or often shows big fluctuations for our area lakes. And at 64% full, and that's 17 feet below the conservation pool. Choke, by the way, 42% full, and that's 19 feet below the conservation pool. Canyon, often pretty steady in its number. It's at 97% and just 1% below the conservation pool. All right, let's take a look at the dust. There's a thicker plume of it right over the Gulf of Mexico, just offshore. And we are expecting this to cycle its way onshore throughout the day tomorrow. So a little extra dash of haze in the sky from that African dust. And it's going to linger into Friday. Then late Friday into the weekend, it really starts to disperse and dissipates. And I don't think you'll really notice it much by the 4th of July and especially into Sunday. The mid-level wind flow is what's steering that. We still have that upper level high with that clockwise circulation. And so as that drifts westward, it's going to take that African dust with it here into San Antonio. So if you are sensitive to the dust, you may notice it a little bit the next couple of days. But we're not looking at the type of dust that we had last Saturday over the weekend. Shouldn't be quite as dense. There is some good rain. So close, but just too far away from us. If we're lucky, some of these showers and storms around San Angelo, we could get a little leftover rain in parts of the Edwards Plateau and Northern Hill Country. That's if we're lucky. But for the most part, we're expecting that to stay out of our area. But hey, if we're not getting it, at least somebody else who needs it is. So at least that's a bit of positive news. 95, that's our current reading. We had a high temperature of 97, so we're down 2 from that. But notice how it feels like it's 5 degrees warmer than the air temperature. Air temperatures, for the most part, still into the 90s. Canyon Lake an exception at 89. Meanwhile, 97 in Castroville, Tarpley at 94, and Helotes you're at 96. Still above 100 west and southwest of town, the typically warmer locations. So we're talking 102 Carrizo Springs. Cotulla, the hot spot, at 103, and Del Rio 101. Speaking of Del Rio, it feels like it's 6 degrees warmer, though, when you factor in that humidity. And heat indices across the board are at or above 100. We can thank that moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, of course, or blame the moisture from the Gulf of Mexico for that humidity and the higher heat indices. But it's July. It's July in San Antonio. This is what you get. Very high humidity out there, especially closer to the Gulf Coast. So this evening, very uneventful. Temperatures will eventually make it into the 80s in a few hours and then drop down into the upper 70s by tomorrow morning. So 78 degrees at sunrise, 88 at noon, and then 97 the high temperature. Hot and hazy with a mixture of sun and clouds. And by the way, these are the situations weather-wise, along with other factors that stress our electrical grid a little bit more. So CPS recommends reducing your energy use during peak hours. That's 3 to 6 p.m. One nice thing you can do is to barbecue outside rather than use your appliances in your kitchen, and even holding off laundry till either the morning or later on at night. Anyway, take a look at our forecast here through the weekend. Dry until maybe a few isolated showers popping up on Sunday. Slim chance, 20%. But at least we'll be in a different weather pattern where we could see some daily pop-up showers Sunday, lasting all the way into next week. And we're going to be very close to 100 for this upcoming weekend. It's 4th of July, after all, in South Texas. We'll be back with more coming right up.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, find a nice shady spot.
Yes.
You know, maybe some shade, put a little fan on you. I'm talking about for grilling, not doing the laundry.
Yes.
But yeah.
We'll
all right,
be right back.
It's live TV, so we're either going to have In Case You Missed It or the mayor coming up after the break, but we will be back. The beauty of live television. Yes, we have Mayor Ron Nirenberg for today's KSAT Q&A, as we do on most Wednesdays. He just got done with his briefing. And Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining us. But we want to start with some clarification on these new orders. Specifically, when did you decide and why did you decide to change the requirement about temperature screenings? That seems to be the big change that was made.
A couple of reasons. One is just practicability. In conversations with many different businesses, the ability to conduct those temperature checks so rapidly in a couple of days was called into question, and understandably so. The other thing is that they presented some clear data that it is actually the temperature, the symptom checking that is the most critical component of this. So we want to make sure that we're not being punitive to businesses, because we're still trying to find our way through the state's orders to add some additional health protections. So we feel like we found a good solution here that works, that accomplishes the objective, but also doesn't create any secondary consequences.
But can you also clarify for us who has to do them? Because you said in your briefing you're not requiring the temperature checks for businesses, but encouraging them. But then the mandate is different for large gatherings. Can you clarify that for us?
So we do have a prohibition on gatherings over 100 people. And so there are some exceptions, though, that are in the state's orders in that regard. So in those exceptions, and I can list off those exceptions that are part of the state's order, we're requiring a health and safety plan, just like any other business. And so those are recreational sports programs for youth and adult, professional, collegiate, or similar sporting events, swimming pools, water parks, museums and libraries, zoos, aquariums, natural caverns, etc., rodeos and equestrian events, and amusement parks and carnivals. A number of these businesses, and they're all exempt, so they can exceed the 100-person limit because the state allows them to. In most of these cases, those protocols already exist, those health and safety policies. But in the event that they don't, we are requiring that they do. And that includes, again, the face masks, as well as the temperature screenings and symptom screenings.
So let's say, for instance, I go to Wolf Stadium to see the Flying Chanclas, or I go to SeaWorld, or I go to Fiesta, Texas over the next few days. I should expect to have my temperature checked.
That's right. That's right. And again, the symptom list to be monitoring yourself for COVID-19 will be listed as you go in there. And a lot of these organizations and leagues and things like that were already planning to make this part of the protocol. In fact, it was already part of the state's Open Texas plan. We were just articulating that in our local orders to make sure that we have some additional health safety precautions.
And then I'm just curious, what happens if somebody appears at one of these large gatherings and they are running a fever? Does that business reserve the right to withhold service?
Yes, and you know, and if you're there with someone who's sick, that's the whole idea, is that we are not putting sick, infected people in a place where they can get a lot of other people sick and infected. So that's the whole point of this, is to make sure that we screen people before we're putting others in harm's way.
You know, EC's question made me think of what Dr. Colleen Bridger, the acting director of Metro Health, said yesterday, that most of what they're seeing are people who are sick, who know they're sick, that are passing this along to other people because they're not staying home when they're sick. Am I understanding that correctly?
You know, I've heard that as well. And that's the thing, is that people need to understand this is a very dangerous virus. So if you know you're not feeling well and you walk up to a business and you see, oh yeah, I've got 2 or 3 of those symptoms, you shouldn't go in there. And at the very in a measure of protection for all of us is that you're wearing a face mask. That really slows down the transmission of the virus, because the water droplets that come out of your face and out of your mouth and your nose don't go into the air. So wearing the face mask is an absolutely important thing to do, along with these other screenings, and it will help limit the amount of interaction that we have with infected people and the rest of the public.
And just really quickly, Mr. Mayor, one of the things that sticks out to me during this briefing that you've given in the past couple of days is the availability of ventilators and hospital beds. And we're getting awfully close, uncomfortably close, I would say, to being at the halfway mark of our availability of ventilators. At what point do you make a plan to have more, or is there one already in place?
There already is one in place. In fact, we've had an open ask of the state for the last 3 or 4 months for a couple of thousand of ventilators. Obviously, that is an order that has yet to be filled, but it's still there. We also have the ventilators that are being produced that are kind of field ventilators, very easily manufactured and put into service. So those are there. But the bigger concern right now is hospital staffed beds and ICUs. That's the area where we're feeling more of the pinch. And, you know, frankly, we are in a situation where the rising cases and admissions in the hospital, if they continue at this trajectory, within a week to 10 days, we're going to be in really tough shape. So that's why we're saying we've got to do everything we can to turn this infection rate around. And keep in mind, hospital beds are not just for COVID-19 patients. In fact, hospital beds are also for heart attacks, strokes, trauma, pregnancies, surgeries. So we've got to make sure that we are maintaining capacity in our medical system, not just for COVID-19 patients, but for everything that happens in a big city. And it requires all of us to not put ourselves in harm's way when there's a respiratory illness going around like COVID-19.
Right. Just to emphasize what you just said, Mr. Mayor, when you see the facts on what you put out in your daily briefing, it says 27% of staffed hospital beds. That's not just for COVID patients. That's for everybody in the city. So we'll continue this conversation tonight on the Night Beat at 10. Mayor Ron Nirenberg, thank you for joining us.
We'll be right back.
Illinois casinos welcome back visitors today as the state continues in phase 4 of its reopening. The Illinois Gaming Board laid out strict cleaning and spacing guidelines for all 10 casinos across the state. All guests and workers will undergo a health screening before entering the casino. They're required to wear a mask or face covering. Decks of cards, cash, chips, and dice will be constantly swapped out and sanitized. Card tables spaced out and surrounded by plexiglass.
We have our new Rivers Clean team where we've supplemented our cleaning staff as we've increased our protocols. Really, the goal is to make it the safest environment as possible.
Also, for precautions, half the slot machines will be in use to allow for social distancing. Hand sanitizer and disinfectant wipes available as well. We'll be right back.